Hey, welcome again to the Audacity Factor video number 2 out of my 90 for 90. I think this is a really important time if you are wanting to maybe make some kind of an impact or maybe even discover something new about yourself and the way you think about things, what you believe, who you surround yourself with. I think now is such an important time to really maybe dig into that because we can know that there's a decision in front of us. We can know that there's a choice and that we need to make it, and we can continue to stand back from it because, well, we're afraid. We're afraid of the unknown, of the uncertainty, what other people might say or do, and a lot of that can be around feeling that they're going to punish you in some way. I know that was a big part of my life and some of the people that I surrounded myself with. And a lot of times we don't even really get to choose. We're born into a particular family, right? We don't get to choose our family members, our blood family members. We get to choose what level of association we have with them. We get to choose that. But that can also be challenging and difficult. But, if it's something you need to do, you need to do. And oftentimes I think people believe that it has to be all or nothing. And it doesn't have to be that. It can be maybe a period of time, or maybe it's just a matter of a distance, because we can love people from a distance. When it comes to your choices, we don't really get to hold them at a distance for too long until they become undermining. We've got to have the courage to make our choice, and not just make the choice, but take the necessary action that the choice is directing us to do. So we've got to, in essence, not just open the gate, but we've got to walk through the gate and close it behind us if we're going to commit to the action it takes to make this change. And it can be a change of beliefs, a change of behavior, change of thinking. And it's really around a choice of how you want to feel in your life and how you want your life to be. Again, all of that lies with you. It doesn't lie with someone else. It doesn't lie somewhere else. We can have a tendency to point elsewhere at circumstances, and all of that's external. And I've done it. I've pointed at being a single mother. I've pointed at not having help. I've pointed at all kinds of external things in my past, for sure, that were creating this scenario where I felt like I didn't have any choices or couldn't make maybe what seemed to be a more challenging choice at the time and take the action needed to actually do that. So when it comes to any decision, when you're really feeling resistance, always brings the struggle. And I know you've heard me say this before, and it's the majority of the time a resistance to what's true and real. Because what's not true and what's not real will always bring the struggle. It brings divisiveness, derision. It brings fear mongering. It brings all kinds of undermining tactics, not only from others, but from yourself as well. Because we can be one of our biggest sources of undermining and disempowerment, isolation, whatever it is that you may be feeling. You have to look to yourself as the source. I know it took me a long time to recognize the fact that, okay, well, what's my part in this scenario? What have I done to maybe not create specifically, but yes, maybe that too, but to allow the scenario for sure, and to allow it to go on when I know that's not what I actually want, when I know it's not actually good for me. Am I feeling like I have to conform to a certain ideology to fit in with my friends or the present group of people I surround myself with. We feel like we can have no options because we're not maybe safe outside of that. And I know that can be really difficult to change associations. But what aligns with you truly will always support you. Won't disempower you, it will empower you. But you've got to do that for yourself first. What choices do you know you need to make for you so that you can feel good about yourself? Not so that that creates fear, not that creates desperation or disillusion or a feeling of powerlessness or hopelessness. Those are not choices for you that will help you to thrive or help you to have the life that you actually would prefer to have. And we can't look to others to provide that for us because it's not their responsibility. It's our responsibility to provide ourselves with the environment that we want and need and feel good about ourselves in and feel good about the other people. Feel good about whatever the destination is, or feel good about whatever the ideology may be, or, and a lot of that comes from not a sense of protection. You need to protect yourself, or you need to be afraid of different ideas, or even afraid of what may actually be true and go against whatever those beliefs are in that particular group. And maybe they're even just your previous beliefs where something has been whittling away at that belief. That's a sure sign for you that there's something changing in you. And it's not something to be afraid of, because what's right for you will come to life when you allow it. And it will nag at you and pick away at you. And sometimes it's some kind of giant event may happen for you to check yourself and say, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly it. I know this is what I used to believe and I used to think, but I know right now that that's not true. And that was just me being misinformed, misbelieving. We all go through this over our lives. I spent years believing that because I was a single mom, I had to struggle, that it was always going to be a struggle. And I lived out every bit of that unnecessarily. It wasn't till later that I understood that it was completely in my hands whether I struggled or not. It wasn't circumstances. And sure, does shit happen? Absolutely. I mean, my house burned down. But I came out the other side of that with such an incredible experience. Was it difficult? Absolutely. It was, absolutely. It's not something I would want anyone to go through, but I know many people do. But it doesn't have to be so hard. But I recognized in me taking the responsibility that I needed to take in the aftermath of that, my thought processes and my beliefs started to change. It's about stepping up to the gate, opening the gate, stepping through, because again, all of those are actions. You have to physically open the gate. You have to physically walk across that threshold. And it is so important to close the gate behind you. And if that means leaving a group of people, if that means leaving a certain community or a workplace, and for me, that was one of the things. For me, it was about a workplace. And it happened actually more than one time because of my own inability to recognize the underlying kind of belief system and mentality that I guess I was a sense of misplaced loyalty is really what it was. And we can have that. And right now it's so prevalent. We can believe that I know I completely sacrificed myself to prove my loyalty to someone when all they did was hurt me and punish me because I didn't, I guess, fit their idea of what I was going to do for them. And in spite of the fact that I went way above and beyond, it became just me sacrificing myself over and over again and being fearful all the time of what was my next punishment going to be. And it was usually always the silent treatment, that passive aggressiveness, that narcissism, gaslighting that can lead us into a sense of, oh my gosh, I don't know myself anymore. I don't know what to say. I don't know what not to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know what not to do. All I know is that I don't feel good about myself, where I am, who I'm with at this present time. So it's up to us to be able to, when we're alone in our room, if we're sliding down that bathroom wall saying, oh my God, how did I get here? Know that that's your first step to acknowledging that something's got to change and it's got to come from you. So whatever it is, whatever the scenario is that you're in those feelings, know that you've probably been resisting for probably quite some time, and you found yourself in this circumstance or predicament. And the next step you take, the next choice that you make, I encourage you to align it with your own sense of integrity, with what's true and real for you. And that's never based in fear. That's never based in anger. That's never based in rage or blame. That's another huge one. Pointing the finger, keeping score, all of those things undermine you and put you in slowly in these little positions where all you're feeling is trapped, but you've trapped yourself. So in undoing that trap, you're the one that has the key. You can actually disappear the cage, the trap for yourself right now by recognizing what is actually aligned with your integrity. How is you actually want to feel? And what's one step you can take to get there? Is it by saying no to someone? Is it by saying yes to something or someone? Is it about saying yes to yourself? Always, if you have listened to anything I've said previously in any of my videos, if you've attended any of my coaching seminars, if attended any of my challenges, anything, which I don't do anymore. However, you can find some of the old videos here on YouTube. If you've attended any of those, it's all got to start with you. It is 100% your responsibility to create the life that you actually want. And it's not by telling other people they have to do something differently. It's up to you doing something differently. What do you need to believe differently? What do you need to think differently? What action do you need to take that's different from what you've normally been doing? That keeps you in that cycle of frustration and pain, exhaustion, hopelessness, disempowerment, struggle. It's always the struggle. It can even drive anger, shame, judgment against yourself, against others, because you could be blaming them. I encourage you to disengage from the blame game. Disengage from the us and them thinking and belief system. It does not work in any way in our favor at all, ever. All you do is shame other people and blame them for what's your responsibility. You know, even if you are victimized, which I've been, most people have been victimized in some way, shape, or form. They've been a victim of something. Like I was a victim of my neighbors set my house on fire. I didn't do it. I didn't have any control over it. However, it's how I reacted to that. Did I initially blame them? Absolutely. I absolutely did. But all that did for me is make me feel powerless to do anything about it. When I had fire insurance, I had homeowners insurance. So I was able to have my home rebuilt. Blaming them didn't do anything, didn't hurt them at all. All it did was hurt me and drive anger and frustration for me. Allowed me to live even more heavily into, well, God, I'm a single mom and you don't even care that you burned down my house. That's was myself and my young daughter. You know, I can look at it now because I've had so much growth over the past decade, and from in so many different arenas, it can be crazy to actually think about. However, I encourage you to take the bull by the horns, literally, because you recognize you are the bull. You are it. You've got to take responsibility for that. So where are you being bullheaded, stubborn, just because you don't want to be wrong? You don't want to know what the truth is, maybe, so that you can keep living the way you do. And that's totally up to you, totally your choice. But if we're going to do that, we don't get to complain. We don't get to blame others because it's your own doing. That can be a hard one. That for me was a hard pill to swallow, I gotta say. But I had to look it in the face. And it's one of the very first things I teach. It's one of the very first things in any of my previous programs that you are required to make 100% commitment to taking 100% responsibility for every area of your life and to take the action that's necessary for that change and transformation to happen. We don't get to tell other people they need to act and behave differently so that we can have a better life. It's up to us 100%. I know it was a smack in the face, maybe smack about the head and shoulders for me. You know, the metaphorical one, not the real one. So anyway, this is video number 2 of my 90 for 90. I'm excited about this. The energy right now is, in spite of it being still chaotic, I'm really enjoying some open discourse with varieties of different people, and it's so encouraging, and it's enlightening, and it's empowering. You know, we're not meant to be one idea and that's the only idea and that's the right one. I mean, just take your family, for example. Nobody's the same, and you all had to learn how to get along together, and not everybody was able to do that. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean that there's one person that's right in the whole entire thing. We all get to make our own choices. Stop trying to make them for other people. Make your own. If you want your own life to be better, you have to make it better. Anyway, this is number 2 of my 90 for 90, and I will see you all tomorrow here on the Audacity Factor podcast.